Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today for our session on creating your own staff intentions forms. I'm excited to show you one of the most powerful planning tools that's going to make your staffing decisions so much easier in the next few months. If you've ever struggled to remember the contents of every teacher's staff intentions form, well, if you haven't, you're superhuman. So if you're not a computer, this session is for you. Today, in just 20 minutes, we're going to cover how to quickly set up a staff intentions form by copying from last year, the key settings that ensure your form is visible or hidden depending on the date, the question types that will give you the best staffing data, and a bonus time-saving tip that will save you hours when setting up subject pickers. But before we launch into it, let me first show you the two data tables that provide the data to the staff intentions form. When you go to schooldata.com.au, you should go straight to your dashboard. Just a quick reminder, no one should ever type a password into Schooldata. We use Microsoft Single Sign-On, so you'll probably go straight into the site when you access it. But if you're logged out, you should type your school email address in when prompted, then it should throw you off to a Microsoft page that might be branded with your school's logos. That's how you know Microsoft are handling your authentication and you're safe, just like on your LMS or any other internal school sites. Now, from your dashboard, press Matrix Planning. Then you'll see this left-hand side menu, which will either be popped out or in, depending on whether you've clicked this hamburger icon here. So I'm going to click this to expand, and we want to manage our lists and specifically the master staff and the master subjects table. It is worth having one thorough check over your subject list to make sure you're happy with all of the names and details. If you want to edit one or two, there is an edit button in every row off to the right hand side, but that is inefficient if you want to edit 20 or 30. Say you want to add the faculty code to a stack of subjects. For this kind of thing, we recommend export and merge. The notes section up at the top here has a link to a video explaining how to export and merge your tables. Basically, as I showed you before, you click these three dots, you press export, then you make some changes to the CSV, you save it, and then merge it back in. One very, very important point on this, you can't use export merge to change class codes or campus codes. When you press merge, the site looks for these handles so that it knows which record you have updated. If you want to bulk update campuses, for example, we suggest using the bulk edits button up here, and you go to campus here. It is very important that you tidy your subject data, especially names and codes, before you add them to a staff intentions form. But you can build your form and then add your subjects last. And to get a quick win, that's how we would suggest attacking this. The master staff table is equally important. When you give teachers access to the form, they will log in with their school email address. So these need to be correct. Also, this TN column, which stands for teaching or non-teaching, is, of course, to show whether a staff member is a teacher or not. We'll explain why this is important shortly. Let me very quickly show you why all of this matters. When you're staffing your planner grid for next year, you will click on a class and you will see this teacher selector here. Look at these columns here. First preference, any preference, previously taught, qualified over here. This is gold standard data for making staffing decisions. This data comes directly from the staff intentions forms your teachers complete. Okay, so let's build one together. If you made a form last year, you could be all done in a minute or two, because I'm going to start by showing you how to copy last year's form. I'm once again in Matrix Planning, and I'm going to click on the SP for staff planning and then staff intentions forms. Now you might see an empty page here with a warning telling you it's empty, but don't panic. Click this show all button. There we go. This reveals any forms we might have built in the past. I am going to copy last year's form by clicking this copy button. I'll give it a name. For sake of ease, I'm going to call it 2026 staff intentions form. Ensure it still says staff intentions form as the form type, and press save. Pressing save launches the form wizard, and you'll see you've been taken to step 2 now form settings. Step 2 here is all about the read-only data your staff will see when they hit the form. I'll tick full name so teachers see their name at the top of the form, but that's pretty much it. I could press save, but one added advantage here, we're all about efficiencies, is if you're navigating forwards through the wizard, you don't have to press save. It will automatically save when you go to the next step. Step 3 is absolutely critical. You may want to write this down. For teachers to see their form on their dashboard, 2 things must happen. The form must be marked as active here. See this checkbox? I'm going to leave it unticked deliberately for now. And each teacher must be added to the form audience, which we'll cover very shortly. You must satisfy a third criterion for teachers to be able to fill in the form, and that is pertaining to the open date and time and the closed date and time. It must be within that window, of course. I'm going to set these to 2025, otherwise they won't appear in my filtered list of forms. Remember to do this. If you are copying your form from last year, this can be a bit of a trap. Make sure you double check the year in that date picker. All right, step 4, as we intimated before, is the form audience. This is make or break. Click edit list and you'll see your entire staff table here. I can tick the selected box next to individual teachers, or I can use this tick all box next to selected at the top of the page. This step is crucial. No audience means no one can see their form on their dashboard. Again, just like subjects, you don't have to add your audience now. I usually add it last to make sure I've had time to tidy my staff data and I've got the most up-to-date staff list in the site. Oh, just one thing before we leave this page. It could be annoying if you had to click the selected box next to all your teachers. And so what we suggest is that if you have set a teacher in your master staff table to future equals true here, and you can do that with export and merge as we discussed earlier, then all you need to do in here is use the advanced filter and then the select all button, and I'll show you how to do this. Let's say your form is only going to staff who are tagged as T for teaching, and obviously future equals true. In the advanced filter, I'm going to tick to the left of future to say I want to look in that field, equals ticked, and with TN down here, I want to look in that field and it must equal T. I'll apply the filter. I now have a much shorter list and I can press the select all button. It'll say, do you want to tick all these 213? And I won't do that right now because I want to add my audience last. So we can go back to the form wizard now. Step 5 and step 6 we can skip. Rules and approvals are mainly for student forms, not staff intentions. So we'll cover those over the next couple of weeks when we're showcasing subject change forms and subject selection forms. So now we are at step 7, the form build, and this is where the magic happens. If you've copied a form, you'll see all your questions here. But for our newcomers, I'm going to show you how to make the form from scratch. So back in the forms portal here, I want to create a new form. So I'm going to press new entry. And for the sake of disambiguation, I'll just call this SI form as the template name and the title. And I'll make sure the form type is staff intentions form. Now, I won't go through all this again. I will race through this. The form dates you will need to do from scratch. So I'll just pick a form date very, very close to now. And a couple of months down the track. The form audience, I'm not going to add now. I can skip approvals and rules and we're back at form build, as you can see here. Now, forms are made up of question groups and questions. Questions live inside question groups, and that name, questions, can be a little bit misleading as the term really encompasses any field you add to a form, whether it's asking for a response or not. So I'm going to add a question group first because you have to. You can't add a question until you have a question group. Let's call this one future intentions, and I'll set this to N for all staff, not just teaching staff. If you set a group to T, only teaching staff, will see it. This is a group level setting. That means you can't apply it to individual questions, you apply this to groups. So this means that if you set it to T, only teachers will see that entire section. If you set it to N, non-teachers will see it too. So everyone will see it. So I'll press save and our question group is created. Now I'm going to add a question. I will press add question here. Now I sent around a manual the other day that explains what to do in all of these fields. But basically you write your text here, and here's a trick. Paste your text into ChatGPT and ask it to enrich it with HTML tags to make the text stand out of the page. So instead of, would you like to be full-time or part-time next year, which if we pressed save would look something like this. I'm going to press edit again, and instead I'm going to replace it with the ChatGPT enriched version that looks like this. And if I just quickly press save, you can immediately see the difference there. Now in the abbreviation box, I am going to type FTPT for full-time, part-time. So when I'm viewing the spreadsheet of responses, the header doesn't take up half the page. Now we will skip down to field type. Here's where you have 16 different question types, but let me break them down for you. For the sake of time, I will give you about a sentence on each, and I'll just show you a handful of the important ones in more detail. Remember, if you want to see what they all look like, you can just add a field type, press save, and see how it looks. You can always edit it afterwards or delete it. Also, to keep this brief, I won't cover the last 4 today. Pre-selection and the preference pickers are pertinent to student forms, so we'll look at those next week. And class picker is if you want a respondent to select classes or subjects from a list, but you don't want that data to go anywhere other than the form report. So you don't want it to populate fields in your planner grid. Okay. Label right up the very top and information are a single line or a paragraph, respectively, that don't allow for a response. So if we are asking if the user wants to be full-time or part-time, and we're planning on having checkboxes representing full-time and part-time beneath this, this question is really just a label. So I'm going to set this to label, and I'm going to press save, and you'll see that the response area has disappeared. I'll add another question type now. Back to the field type. Checkbox and radio are next. Let's say we create a question where the text is simply full-time, and we make it a checkbox, and I'll put FT as the abbreviation, and I'll press save. Let's also add one that's pretty much identical but for part-time. And we'll also make this one a checkbox. This is good, but it will allow the user to select both. So what we really want here are radio buttons. I'll change part-time as well. With radio buttons, if you change your answer from one to the next, your first answer is automatically cleared and replaced with your second. So essentially, you can only have one answer to a question. But here's some vital information about radio groups. At the moment, our page here doesn't know that these two answers are linked together, so you can select both. I'll just refresh this page to get rid of those ticks. The form needs to know which radio buttons are grouped together. Say you had another question below this that said, would you like to be on campus A or B next year? When you tick campus A, it might remove your answer to the full-time, part-time question if it doesn't know that they are separate questions. So we need to tell the site, and this is incredibly simple. I'm going to press edit next to full-time. Down here you will see radio group. We just have to give it a name, and I'm going to say FTPT because that is the group, and I'm going to press save. Now when I click part-time, I have to give it the same name here for it to know that it is part of the same radio group. So it doesn't matter what the name is, it's just important that they have the same name. And now if I tick full-time and then change my answer to part-time, full-time disappears. Okay, later in the form, you might want to ask a question like, do you have any feedback to give? If you select input half-page text box, it's only a single line. I better give a question abbreviation here. Feedback. It's only a single line, but it only takes up half the width of the page. If I change that by pressing edit down here to input single line text box, it takes up the full width of the page. Now for feedback, unless you don't want them to give much feedback, you probably want this next option, text area, multi-line text box. As the name suggests, they can give a multi-line response, and they can go beyond the height, the number of rows that you can see here as well. It will expand with their answer. Now let's add another question and let's have a look at the next one, desired FTE. This is where part-time staff can specify their preferred workload. This actually writes directly to their preferred FTE field in the planner loads page. So you're not always trying to remember what FTE your part-time staff said they wanted to be next year. So let's add a question that says, please indicate your preferred FTE for next year. I avoid specific years so I can copy the form from year to year. Then I set this to desired FTE, and I'll call this pref FTE and press save. You can see there's room for them to type in their preferred FTE. Now, I only want this question to appear if the teacher has ticked part-time up here. And so I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to utilize this associated question section here. The associated question that we want this question to look at is part-time. And if we have a look back up the top here, the associated question criterion here would be true. That is, we want to look at part-time and we want to find true. And if that's satisfied, then this question will appear. So I'll press save, and you'll notice that there's a box around this now. You can still see this in build mode, but the reason there's a box there is to show you that it won't actually be visible to participants, to respondents, unless they press part-time, and that box will go red to say that this is activated here. In the actual form, it will expand out and the question will appear. Now, note, you can only tie a question to another question within the same question group. Okay, we are plowing through this. This only leaves the picker types here. Pickers are designed to look in particular data tables for allowable answers to questions and then return these answers to you when you're staffing classes in the planner grid. First up, we have the staff intentions picker. This is your bread and butter. This question might be something like, which subjects would you like to teach next year? If I select staff intentions, I'll get a note saying that I need to save this page here before I can continue, and I'll show you why in just a second. But if you use this mode, this data is going to go straight into your preference columns in the planner grid when you're staffing a class. So if we press save, oh, I haven't filled out the abbreviation, thank you, teach pref, and I'll press save. Down here, you can see that the question type it's changed modes. And so that reason that we have to press save is because if I press edit, you'll see it in here. The questions it's asking you in here are different now. And so it kind of needed a moment to recalibrate. Now in here, you will see this box here. This is where we're going to populate it with our allowable answers, our subjects, if you like. So I press edit list, and it will launch a view of the master subjects table. If you want a particular subject to appear as an allowable answer, you need to tick the box here. But if you have several pickers in your form, this could take ages. So we strongly suggest using a shortcut here. Both of these shortcuts that I'm about to tell you require you to use export merge. So I strongly suggest watching the export merge video back in the notes section in the master subjects table. So method one, back in master subjects, if you have used this survey column here, and again, by exporting to CSV and then quickly populating the survey column with true or false, depending on whether you want it to be ticked or not, then when you get in here, if all of the subjects you want on the form are ticked, it's simply a matter of using the advanced filter, saying we want survey include to be ticked, applying the filter, and there you go. Only those subjects that are ticked will now apply in the filter. Method 2 is largely the same, but you may want to use these tags columns here. If survey include is not enough, say you've got 4 or 5 different pickers and you want 4 or 5 different sets of questions in those pickers, you need a slightly more granular tag or a granular way of determining which subjects go in which picker. That's where the tags can come in handy. Again, export from your master subjects table, populate that column with tags, maybe question 1, question 2, or something that's meaningful to you, merge it back in, and in here you'll simply need to search or filter for those tags, press the select all button up the top here, and they will be added to your question. You don't need to press save or anything like that. To get these to appear, if I were to select just a handful here of subjects, to get these to appear in your question, you just need to press back to form question and you'll see them here. Now, while we're in here, I'll tell you what min-max selections do. You need to enable this if you want teachers to have a minimum or a maximum number of subjects from this question that they must select. So if you're asking them what they'd like to teach next year and you don't want them leaving it blank, you can set the min picker to say 3, the max to 200 if you don't care how many they select, but just make sure you have this enable min-max picker ticked. Press save, and you'll see here that it actually says min picks 3, max picks 200 here. By the way, when your staff fill out questions like this, all they need to do is click on the subjects to throw them over into their bucket. If they have selected a few subjects and they've got the order wrong, they can simply drag them back into their preferred order. If they select something by mistake, simply click it and it disappears back to the master list. Now, by the way, if this user tried to submit this form now, press OK down here, it says the question, which subject would you like to teach next year, requires a minimum of 3 items to be selected, and that has not been satisfied here, as you can see. All right, I'll press add question so I can show you the other pickers very quickly. The other pickers work the same way, so I won't labour the point. If you've created planners or loaded timetables into the site in past years, the site knows who has previously taught subjects, but this one here is a little bit different. It's if you want to ask your staff what they've previously taught. Say they taught chemistry in Sydney 15 years ago. They can tell you here. It goes into a different column in the teacher selector in the planner grid. Qualifications similarly allows you to ask your staff which subjects they're qualified to teach, but stay tuned for some big developments here in terms of extracting this data directly from resumes. It's not finished yet, but hopefully it's not far away and we have a big announcement coming in the next few weeks at most. CoCurric points to the co-curricular table. Have a look in the manual for instructions about how to add subjects to that table. Some schools prefer to do it that way, others just list their camps or sporting teams as questions with checkboxes next to them. If preference order is important, select the 4 camps you would like to go on in preference order, for example, then this question type is your go-to. Just quickly, I'm going to press back to form report here. That takes me back to the wizard and it moves me forward a step to the form reports, of course. Once some submissions have been made, you will see them in here. And just like a Google form or a Microsoft form, you can press the 3 dots and export to CSV if you want to read it on the train or something like that. Form stats, finally, is for subject selection forms. It's where you will be able to track live preferences and reserved preferences as forms are submitted. So we can skip that until next week. And that's it. Once your form is built and you're ready for staff to access it, make sure you set the form to active, check the date range, and add the teachers to the audience and the subjects. You might want to use export and merge to add tags to subjects or to tick them as survey equals true if you want to make bulk selecting them a fair bit quicker. Once you do all this, staff will see the form on their school data dashboard. it'll look like a link just like this one here. If the form is not set to active or the teacher is not added to the audience, they will not see the link at all. If they are and the form is active, but the dates are not open, if the form is not open right at the moment, you will see a not yet open icon or similar here. So that is everything. A few key takeaways. Always copy the form from last year if you can. And if you're a new school, by the way, we will have copied a template to your dashboard so you can go in and edit that if you like. Don't forget to mark your form as active and add your audience. Use staff intentions pickers for preference data. Don't use generic class pickers. That is very important. And tag your subjects for faster picker setup. Now, I'll just take 30 or 40 seconds to review the questions that have been coming in on the chat. After I've done that, I will start to select some from the list and read them out and give you hopefully a quick but thorough response to each question that's been asked. Feel free to hang around if you'd like to hear those responses. Otherwise, as always, you can contact me either via email or phone. Thank you once again for your attendance and your support today. As I always say, please yell out if I can be of any assistance or if there is anything that we can build in the future to make your life easier.